everyone, and thank you for joining us today. And welcome to SIREM's Africa Talk Sports Web Conferences number 15. For our new followers and participants, my name is Mustafa Sal, founder of SIREM Sports, a Senegalese agency specialized in sports, international relations, and event management, and also the initiator of Africa Talk Sport, which is designed to bring together and create a dialogue across the African sports world on how we can tackle opportunities and the major challenge that our sport movement is facing. And in today's particular session, we will discuss about the impact of the African game on the developments of sports, uh, of Africa's sports movement, which was created as a way to promote unity and solidarity among African nations through sports, and now have developed into cultural celebration whose influence is being left throughout Africa. These games have the potential to develop as a window into the brightness and riches of Africa culture and showcase its love for pleasure and healthy sport competition. However, major events are now regarded by many cities as significant part of their tourist strategic. Staging a major sports event normally involve the host city making a contribution to the cost. Whether such as contribution is justified depend on the economic benefits generated in their local economy. And with our moderator, uh, Mr. Tahiru, sport editor at City Radio and TV in Ghana, and our high-profile speaker who will be sharing with you, with us, the experience and expertise today. We are willing to give you a very productive session. I will let now Mr. Tahiru to start the panel. So enjoy the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mustafa, for this wonderful program. My name is Fentio Tahiru Fentio. As Mustafa has already said, I'm the sports editor for City FM and City TV here in Ghana. And it's one of the biggest media companies in the country. We own a radio station, a TV station, multiple websites, and what have you. I've covered multiple games in my career, the World Championships, the African Championships, the African Games, and so many more. It's an absolute pleasure to be in the midst of all of these very important personalities in the country and across the continent as well. So the idea for the program will be 1 hour, 30 minutes. That is the tentative time. Depending on interactive level, we may slightly extend the time. And during this period, we will ask all of you some very specific questions based on your expertise. And then after that, we have some general questions that we will also ask. And it doesn't matter whose question it is. If after the presentation of one person, another person wants to add something to it, you can quickly add something to it. We're trying to learn and get as many angles as possible. But then also the last part of the program, we will take questions from some of the people that are watching on Facebook, and then we can wrap it up, hopefully in an hour and 30 minutes or slightly over that. So a very important panel today, because of the difficulty of some of the names, I first have to beg for forgiveness if I don't say your name very correctly, and I'm open for corrections. And I'll just mention the names of our panel, and then I'll let them introduce themselves very, very briefly. So today, to help us do the discussion on the impact of the African Games on the development of Africa's sports movement, as Mustafa said, the panel, 5 of them, very, very highly distinguished. Matlohan is the IOC and ANOCA member, State Vice President of ANOCA, President of the Lesotho National Olympic Committee. Hello, Matlo. Good to see you.
Hello, yes, thank you for having me.
And
hi to everyone.
Yes, hi. We also have Ian Craven. who is a former CEO at the First African Beach Games. Hello, Jan. Good to see you.
Good morning, everybody. Very nice to be here.
Yes, very nice to have you. We also have on the panel Beatrice Ayikoru, who's a council member for World Athletics. She's vice president of the Uganda Olympic Committee. These days in her country, they're celebrating a world record. Hello, Beatrice.
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon.
Very good afternoon. We also have on the panel Penelva Cesar, Secretary General and CEO of the National Olympic Committee of Mozambique. They also hosted the African Games back in 2011. Hello, Pen. How are you?
Hi. How are you? How is everyone?
Good to
Nice
have
being
you.
here.
And then last but not least, of course, we have the president of the Ghana National Olympic Committee, who is also executive board member of the Commonwealth Weightlifting Federation, Mr. Ben Nunu Mensah. Over here in Ghana, everyone calls him Uncle Ben. Hello, Uncle Ben.
Yes, hello everybody, and thanks having me on this program. Thank you very much.
Okay, very wonderful. So what I would just do is to just give everybody some 1 minute to just tell us what you've been up to and what your federation is being up to, or just generally what you've been up to the last few years leading up to now. Obviously, coronavirus and what have you. Just give us a brief overview of what you've been up to. And I'll begin with Matlo Hang. Matlo, you have some 1 minute to tell us exactly what you've been up to.
Thank you, Fentu. Let me take this opportunity to thank you for having invited me to this platform and, of course, discussions. My name, as you have said, tried to pronounce it well, is Matlo Hang Mwilara Mokopo. I am the president of the National Olympic Committee of Lesotho. I also sit on the executive committee of ANOCA and also the executive council of ANOC, the Association of National Olympic Committees, and I'm an IOC member. And I think recently I've been quite involved with the Gender Equality Commission, since now we are not able to meet physically. We've had a series of meetings where we are trying to see how we can adapt to the situation and still push our gender equality agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's very wonderful indeed. Very wonderful indeed. So if I may try your name, Matlo Hang Mwilara Mokopo.
Perfect. Ask Jan. Perfect.
Yes, go me. Go me. All right. Let's go to Jan Craving to quickly tell us what you've been up to. Jan?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I guess most recently we completed the project in Cape Verde for the first African Beach Games. That was in, well, it feels like a long time ago now, in June 2019. Obviously, as with all organizing committees, in the end, we finished at the end of the year, and since then, and I work as a consultant for a sports technology company, born in sports technology, and we're looking to obviously to work with the various different events that are taking place in Africa to bring our expertise to really take the events in Africa to the next level. And so obviously with everything in the privilege of obviously visiting Lesotho as well in January, before we obviously the world was on lockdown. So at the moment it's yeah, like with everything in sport, we're kind of just waiting for this situation to pass so that we can obviously get back to what we do best. So thanks.
Wonderful stuff indeed. Thank you very much, Jan. Let's hear from Penelva Cesar before we go to Beatrice. Penelva, 2011 sounds like a long time ago now, but recently, what have you been up to in Mozambique? I think his microphone is muted. Mustafa.
Mr. Panelva, your
Sorry,
mic.
sorry. I was mute. Sorry.
Okay.
Am I back now?
Yeah.
Don't worry,
Okay.
it's fine.
I was trying to say, I would say there is too little to say, and there is also too much to say. For speaking about the 2 last years, as obviously everyone will understand, our works as National Olympic Committee has been the preparations for the participation to Tokyo 2020. And most of our work was tied to this preparation. But since we have this pandemic, we are now facing a huge challenge because most of the activities are like in a limbo now, and we have to reinvent sports and we have to reinvent ourselves. But yeah, we're doing whatever we can. We are busy working with national federations, working with communities, especially with our Olympic Center, where we are delivering education, we are producing masks to distribute all over the country. Because normally we produce uniforms for students, as our Olympic Africa Center has got a school of 2,500 students, and students now are not attending lessons. So we use the facilities and we produce masks, we distribute all over the country. We do activities related to education about the pandemic situation. And yeah, we try to get ready to the re-entering or to the restart when this comes possible, so that we can be ready for Tokyo, we can be ready for Dakar, Birmingham, Ghana, you name it, Lesotho. Yeah. It's too many events coming up, and we have to be ready. So although there is no much activity, we have to be really, especially regarding the high performance athletes, which in one way or another, we make sure they train in a proper environment, in a safe environment, so that they won't lose, the pace for their preparation. So as I said, it's...
No, yeah. I mean, wonderful stuff. I didn't mean to interrupt. You are doing a lot, so much, but like you said, very little time, it appears, to do all of that stuff. We'll come back to you and learn more. But let's go to Beatrice now. Beatrice, council member, World Athletics. Just tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you've been up to, Beatrice.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Beatrice, as you right said. It's an easy name. The other is a bit difficult. I'm the General Secretary of Uganda Athletics Federation and the Vice President for the Uganda Olympic Committee. I also deputize a Moroccan as the Director for Development in Africa in athletics. And then finally, I'm a council member for the World Athletics. Of course, we all know about the COVID-19. We had so many plans to the various 3 levels as the Africa Confederation, the Uganda Athletics Federation, and also the National Olympic Committee. The focus was mainly on the preparation for the 2020 Olympic Games. And the annulment, the cancellation, the postponement came in when we were already set in the second gear. We had already launched in our team that had already prepared, qualified for the games. Of course, all that had to be shelved off. As the Uganda Olympic Committee, we've been trying to engage our federations to keep there and also keep the hopes of the athletes who have qualified for the Olympic Games, to ensure that they don't lose their fitness or they don't get injured. we engage our national federations to ensure that the sport still goes on. They organize online sessions with their members to keep them updated on what is happening in the country in regards to the lockdown. From the athletics perspective, of course, the biggest percentage of the qualified athletes come from the sport of athletics. We've been trying to ensure that our athletes don't lose fitness. The qualified athletes stay in the high altitude. They continue the training camps. We assign them the coaches to give them the hope and motivate them. And also keep our members, the association members of the federation, to support those other athletes in the hope that the lockdown will be lifted and the ban on athletics or sports in the country will be lifted, so that we are able to start a season when athletes have not lost fitness. At the level of the Confederation of African Athletics, we try to engage our members in the Africa Confederation through our regional development centers, what now is called the African Development Centers. We have 3 of those centers, one in Cairo, one in Dhaka, one in Nairobi, based on the 3 languages spoken on the continent. So we've been organizing online courses for competition management, how to keep athletes fit during the COVID-19, how to, women courses, the seminars on women, all online. Then at World Athletics, of course, as the world body for athletics, we've been trying to keep our members engaged through bi-weekly information sessions to keep them updated on what is happening in the world regards to COVID-19, how also the athletes can stay, and also other programs like bidding process and the rest of the things. So that's what has been keeping us busy since March 2020. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Beatrice. Quite a lot. Your plate is really full indeed. Let's now wrap it up with the introduction with Ben Nunu Mensah, who is president for the Ghana Olympic Committee, also weightlifting executive board member. Ben, briefly, what have you been up to during this period coming into now, the last few months?
Well, thank you, Tahir. As Tahir has already said, I'm the president of the Ghana Olympic Committee. I am also an executive board member for the African Weightlifting and the Commonwealth Weightlifting Federation. I also serve on the ANOCA Marketing Commission. And these positions have kind of kept me a bit busy, even though there's COVID. At the Olympic Committee level, our focus has been on what support we can get for our national team athletes as they all go on lockdown or as they all wait and prepare for the games. And fortunately for us, the government has been very forthcoming. There's a certain level of support, financial support for our Ghanaian athletes now as they train. What we've also been able to do is to get government to lift the lockdown on the participation of individual non-contact sports. So at least they can start preparing. That has also been done. So you realize the sports like weightlifting, badminton, tennis, table tennis, and those sports that you don't engage each other are already beginning to train. On the African or the ANOCA level, we're putting things together that we don't need to wait till probably we're ready for 2023. ANOCA Commission the Marketing Commission has been having a series of meetings, to structure and then put together a blueprint. So we'll be able to market the game 2023 very well, and then probably get our headline sponsors 2 years before the game starts. So that's what has been keeping some of us busy.
Okay, excellent indeed from the Olympic Committee president for the Ghana. For Ghana, also remember, Ghana will be the country that will be hosting the next African Games. So this is especially really crucial time for us, and I'm interested in particular about what plans are already in place. But let's get the conversation started with the specific questions to panel members, and this time We will start with Matlo. And Matlo, the question to you is this. Now, Lesotho, they will host the 2022 African Youth Games, a very important competition considering that perhaps Senegal will also be hosting the Youth Olympics in Africa for the first time. We know that's been postponed to 2026. Why did Lesotho bid for these games, and what kind of impact are you hoping that hosting these games will have in your country?
Thank you very, very much, Fanto. First of all, I would like to say we all know that the African Youth Games is a new product for ANOCA, the African National Olympic Committees. Our games will be the 4th edition of these games. And what these games have been able to do is to raise the profile of ANOCA as an organization. Not only that, but also to give ANOCA something to sell, a product to sell, so that they can be able to get, sponsorships and partnerships. And ANOCA is striving to have these games as a qualifier for the Youth Olympic Games on many levels. And we know that the Olympic Youth Games is associated with a very big and recognized brand of the Olympic rings. So, and also it's a well-known youth sporting event in the world. So the main reason why we looked at this is, I think, was something that has been set as a principle by the president of the IOC, to say that not all 206 Olympic committees may be able to step up to hosting the major games, meaning the Olympic or the Summer Olympic Games. So it was created, I think the Youth Olympic Games were created to provide a stage for smaller economies and smaller countries. The main reason being to promote the practice of sport for our youth. So that was the main target for us. We wanted to promote the practice of sport for our youth by promoting the important values that come with sport and the important values of Olympism. So this we looked at or envisaged by saying we could use these games to drive or build a long-lasting legacy of sport in our country. Lesotho is a small country that is surrounded by South Africa, and about a population of about 2 million. And we joined the Olympic Committee back in 1972, and we've been striving and working very hard to get our Olympic medal. So we realized that if we can get involved or get the youth involved at a very young age, at primary level, through the games, we would get very young athletes that will continue to engage in sports as athletes, maybe going up to a level of high performance as athletes, as coaches, as well as administrators. So we thought the games would enable us to create a sporting culture in the country, and also go a long way in, as we all know that the youth games go along with educational programs, and we thought that we could use this also as a platform to have educational programs on Olympic values programs on clean sport, programs on safeguarding. And I just want to touch a bit on safeguarding, because I think it's one of the key focus areas of the International Olympic Committee now, to make sure that we have our athletes participating in safe and secure sporting environments. So those are the kind of education programs that we thought would be brought about alongside the youth games that we'll be hosting. We were very excited, and we are looking forward to more athletes being developed from this program, or from the Olympic, this youth Olympic, the African Youth Games. And the idea was that for us to build a large pool of athletes that could even go to a level of getting Olympic medals. And I think one of the things at the hindsight was to try and push to the public, to the government, to see that sport can be brought up as a priority, because you'll agree with me that in our economies, sport, when you look at its level in terms of priority in the government, is taking a backstage. So we wanted to try and use these games as well to push our sport to be taken as a priority. So we want to believe that one of the things that the games would create is a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and also get a lot of people involved, not only in sport, but also in physical activity. Also, we realized that we were lacking in terms of infrastructure, in sport infrastructure. And so we thought this could enable us to develop our sporting infrastructure. That is really, really much needed in our part of the world. And one of the things that we are earmarking to have built is competition venues. Athletics, Beatrice will be happy to hear that I'm also an athletics fan. Athletics and training facilities for athletics, but also we don't have a functional Olympic size swimming pool. That was one of the venues and the infrastructure that we are looking forward to get constructed, and also a multi-sport indoor arena. So one was promoting sport and development, and two, infrastructure development, and also promotion of partnerships. Maseru 2022 is still has a mission to promote more partnerships, that is working together to see how the event can help some of our partners to achieve their objectives. In this particular case, I'll make an example that hosting the games would help in the development of a much needed student accommodation at our university. And the accommodation would be used as the Olympic Village, and thereafter would be used as students' accommodation after the games. And again, we will all agree that most of our countries are faced with a lot of people importing vehicles or used vehicles from other countries. And this has brought up a big challenge with traffic in our city. And we had I think set with the Maseru City Council to look into their plans to see whether their plans talk to maybe the hosting of the games. And indeed, we found that there were plans to try and alleviate the traffic in the city. So that would enable us to have a smooth transport system during the games. So those are some of the things that we were looking at, and plans are still in place. It's a pity that we are faced with this corona crisis, because some of these plans were already had already started and had to stop because of the provisions that have been given or the guidance that has been given against involvement in a lot of work pertaining to corona. And one of the things that we also wanted to achieve was to expand the number of Olympic sporting codes in Lesotho for more of our youth to take part in sport. So to increase the number of associations, to increase the number of different disciplines and codes, so that our youth can be interested or take part in one or more sporting codes. So that was our I think our vision when we took this challenge of hosting the African Youth Games.
Wonderful stuff, Matlo. And it's interesting that you mentioned your interest in athletics because I happen to know two athletes from Lesotho that I met at the African Championships in 2018. One of them is an 800-meter runner. I think I met her again at the World Championships in Doha. Her name is Sepan Selo. Yes. So, and then I think the other one was Lerato Sechele. So,
yes.
yeah. So when you say that you're working, and these were very young athletes. I think when I met Sepang at the time, she was just about 16 in 2018. So, you know, when you say that you're working to try and improve sports infrastructure and get a lot of the youth interested in sports, I can tell exactly what you're trying to do there. Thank you very much for that wonderful delivery, Matlow. Let's move on the conversation now on to our next question. And this particular question, I will have to send it to Penalva. Now, Penalva, because your country hosted the African Games back in 2011, we want to talk about legacy here and what sort of legacy the Games left behind. It's been 9 years, of course, since those Games. What kind of legacy did the Games leave in your country, both immediately after the Games and the long-term legacy that is left in terms of its influence on sports? What lessons did organizing the Games teach you about organizing a multi-sport event that perhaps even Matlow and Benunu Mensah can learn going forward?
Can I just chip in, Mr. Moderator? Just a correction. I saw that Penalva has been put down as a Zimbabwean National Olympic Committees. If that can be corrected, because some of us will be in trouble, Ben, who will be in trouble, if we let that be. Just that minor thing.
Yeah,
observation. Thank you.
No, I know Penalva is from Mozambique, I believe. So I don't know who wrote the Zimbabwe there, but Penalva, I don't know if you heard my question.
Yes, I heard your question. Let me recorrect. If someone said I'm from Zimbabwe, it's fine. I'm really from Mozambique. But I must tell you, since 2011, I became an African citizen. I'm even from Lesotho.
That is true. That is true. That is true.
And I feel proud of being an African citizen because Maputo 2011, first of all, was a huge challenge. It happened as a consequence of Zambia not hosting the Games. The Games were supposed to be held in Zambia. And 2 years before the kickoff of the Games, Zambia, had to throw the towel, and somebody had to come and rescue the Games. And this was Mozambique. And I tell you, friends, first of all, at the beginning, this was a political decision made by the president of the state. The head of state made a decision that Mozambique would host. And so we as sports people had to come to support the decision made by our president. So we had 2 years to host the Games. This was a big challenge. But it was a good challenge. And it was an event that brought us lots of legacies. Legacy is one word, but legacy brings lots of other legacies. If we talk historically, to host the biggest sport event or the biggest multi-sport event in the continent in history is something that some of our countries in Africa will never do. So when you host, like Lesotho is hosting, like Senegal is hosting, like Ghana is hosting, this is a moment historically which is very important for the country, besides being very important for the continent. But beside the historical side of it, it's like the sport-wise talking. I mean, if a country hosts a multi-sport event like the African country, this host country must prepare itself in order to get the most medals possible, because you host, you want to win. Besides organizing well the event, you also want to showcase, you want to show to your own people your valuable the value of your athletes. So sports-wise, it's very important, because that takes you also to another level, which is delivering the infrastructure that will allow you to go along with the standards that are required by the international federations. And for instance, back in my country, some of the infrastructure did not benefit for refurbishment, or there were no new infrastructure built, like for 40 years already. The African Games, hosting the African Games, brought us a boost in terms of having proper facilities, both for competition and training, for 22 sports. And this represents, in terms of infrastructure, a very big boost in the country, especially at the capital where the games were held. And infrastructure will also take us to accommodation. We have to build a new games village to cater for all delegations. That games village was turned into a neighborhood for young couples. So people could buy those apartments after the games. And in terms of accommodation for Maputo City, this was a very huge gain. And economically, hosting this kind of event really brings also a lot of benefits in terms of economy. You have people coming because they are participating. You have people coming because they're coming to watch. And you have also people coming from other sides of the country who will put their money. They will, organize new business, and all these things come together and bring to the host country a lot of benefits. So beside those things, I can also consider the kind of training we delivered to the various people involved in the organization of the games, talking of the officials we have to train, the volunteers we had to train, the coaches, umpires. I mean, the organizing committee, let me tell you, when we set the organizing committee of the African Games in Maputo, I was the only person who came from sport. And all the other components of this structure were coming from different ministries. And I don't know, we had to intercommerce to teach what a sport event was, what and how to organize from A to Z. So I believe Mozambique had lots of benefits. We have people now who are almost professionals, people who can run an event from their national federations to international federations to continental federations. So the legacy for me, it's really huge. It's very big. And although it was very difficult, it was something else. I mean, and there's another legacy which is hidden. It was reported that Maputo 2011 was the best ever African Games to be held. I don't know about the following ones, but I believe we did a good job, and that was by itself a big legacy. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, this is all very amazing because I remember Maputo for Ghana. We had we had we remember Maputo for various reasons. For example, I mean, we won, I think, gold medal in the football in 2011 in Maputo. But at the same time, when they came back to the country, there was like a whole commission because so many other things went on there, as
Yeah,
usual.
Ghana was, Ghana was fun.
Yeah.
Ghana got in Maputo a little bit earlier, and the accommodation for Ghana was not ready, and we had to allocate Ghana to another
Yeah. Yeah.
accommodation before
Wonderful.
the games village. And
Yeah.
when you have a lot of people all together, it was like 20,000 people all together, from athletes, officials, and umpires, volunteers. And when you get all these people, things happen because no one is equal to anyone. So it's normal that things happen this way, this time, the other way, the other time. So at the end of the day, I mean, everyone
I agree.
did
I agree.
their participation, and we were all happy. And I think Ghana was also happy, although this kind of situation happened. So, but it's part of history.
Yeah.
Part of
It
the
is
legacy.
history. It is history. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your hospitality. Great insights there from you, Penalva. This time I want to bring in Beatrice and ask mostly about athletics because the African Games is basically more or less like the African Olympics. And as it is with the Olympics, athletics is always the biggest star attraction of the Olympic Games. And for the right reasons, even for the African Games, it should be the biggest star attraction. Unfortunately, what we've seen in recent times in the African Games is that a lot of the big athletes start to pull out of the games. We don't see them going there to compete at the games. Beatrice, is that something, what has to be done to get our biggest athletes, Africa's biggest athletes, coming and actually competing at the African Games and giving their all? Is it a case of timing? Is it finances? What is it about the African Games that is making some of our biggest athletes giving it second thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Tahiri. I think we have a lot of top athletes in Africa, but one thing is just to know that being at Olympic Games is the epitome for every athlete. Every sportswoman would like to be at Olympic Games. So really the dream of being an Olympian is always there lingering around the athletes' minds. Now, when you look at the All Africa Games, it's one of the pathways for most athletes trying to reach their goals of being in Olympic Games. So for those athletes who have been at Olympic Games, I mean Africa Games before in the previous editions, maybe at a lower level, they didn't perform well, or they have transitioned to the World Athletics Championships, which has really strict qualification period. The Africa Games becomes a less competitive event for such athletes, the top athletes. So in the countries where there are a lot of top athletes, for example, Ethiopia or Kenya or South Africa or Ghana, that have very many top athletes, the decision to give chances to other athletes that may not have an opportunity to be at Olympic Games are always made by the national federations, just in the hope that they're able to offer opportunities for other upcoming athletes to be exposed at All Africa Games, just like those that have already reached the world level. For countries that have fewer top athletes, one or two, or they could be the only ones in their country, of course, there's an option to be made to bring glory to their country. They go for all Africa Games purposely for medals. But of course, as you rightly said, there are the issues of the scheduling. The All Africa Games always takes place in the year when we have the World Athletics Championships. We've had cases where the events, the games took place before. For example, in Mozambique, Maputo. Also, I think in Maputo, we had the All Africa Games before. And also last year in Rabat, the All Africa Games came before the World Championships. Now, in such a scenario, you'll realize that the athletes who have qualified for World Championships would prefer to go for World Championships other than participating in the All Africa Games. And also knowing that All Africa Games is a qualifier event for Olympic Games, the athletes who have qualified for World Championships and those that have not qualified look at All Africa Games as an event for them to qualify. But on the other side, we have also had All Africa Games taking place after the World Championships, like in Brazzaville. I think Brazzaville and 2011 also took place after the World Championships. Now, it is upon the athletes, the top athletes in such circumstances, those who have failed to perform at World Championships, look at All Africa Games as a consolation. So in that case, they're able to participate in the All Africa Games. In other cases, they'll look at it as tiring them, it's a fatigue. So you find some of them don't come for the games. So the other aspect, of course, for us to be able to look at is what does All Africa Games mean to many of our athletes? As I say, it is a pathway to Olympic Games, a pathway to World Championships. So even an athlete looks at All Africa Games as a pathway. One who hasn't qualified will go for All Africa Games, of course, in the hope that he's able to qualify. But for those athletes who have already qualified for Olympic Games, they'll opt out of All Africa Games. So these are the things that are always at play on whether an athlete really goes for All Africa Games or not. They look at whether one has qualified, because the All Africa Games period is within the qualification period for most of the Olympic game events. Then the one factor we may not be able to forget is the issue of motivation. You realize I said All Africa Games and World Championships are on the same year. At times they're separated just by weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks. So an athlete who is the top will look at the chances. What chances do I have? What motivates me to be at the Olympic Games? I mean, at the World Championships, what motivates me to be at the All Africa Games? We all know at All Africa Games, there are things like prize money don't apply. Our athletes run for honor for their country, to represent the country, that honor. But many athletes will choose to go for prize money that is being offered at the World Championships. So those decisions are made by the athletes depending on what motivates them. It could be the prize money motivating them. It could be the qualification for Olympic Games that will motivate them either to participate or not to participate. And one thing I also want to say is the absence of the top athletes of Africa at the Olympic Games, at the All Africa Games, does not mean that we don't have a quality of performance at athletics events. It's not. We have top class athletes that are always there at All Africa Games. You may find countries that have several elite athletes. Even their fifth athlete ranked is very good, world class. So in that case, we have that kind of athletes who would be there. In the last All Africa Games, we had very good performance by athletes, and most of those athletes are the top athletes of Africa. There could be very few athletes who missed out on the All Africa Games. As I've said, that decision has to be determined by the national federation and also the athlete, depending on what is it that they will get in the Africa Games. If they haven't qualified for Olympic Games, they use it as a stepping stone to offer opportunity for them to be able to compete. If they have qualified, they are the only athlete from their country. The burden will be on their soldiers to make sure they sign at the games. If they are from countries which have so many athletes, they'll offer that as an opportunity for those who may not qualify for Olympic Games, for Olympic Games to go at Africa Games. So as Africa, we have a lot of talents out there that has to be absorbed by our events.
Yeah.
Africa Games is one of them. We have athletes who may never have opportunity to go to Olympic Games because of the competitive nature of qualification due to the limitation in the numbers. You all know that the slot for athletics at any event is 3, maximum 3.
Yeah.
There are countries that have 15 athletes qualified in one single event. Where can the rest of the athletes be absorbed? So there are those events that have to provide opportunities, including the Africa Games. And that doesn't mean Africa Game is a lower level, no. Africa Game is the epitome of games in Africa. But we need to look at way out. Where can we give chances to our athletes? Where can we expand the number of events for our athletes to be able to participate? So for the sport of athletics, we have quality athletes at all Africa Games. We have quality athletes at Olympic Games. We have quality athletes at World Championships. The national federations have the mandate to decide whether to give chances to more athletes, if there are many, or to ensure that one athlete they have the best in their country has to be at Africa Games. So these games should provide us chances for more athletes in Africa to develop their talent, to up their talents. Because as I said, there's the pathway. We start at the national level, we go the regional level, the zonal level. In terms of games, the next is Africa Games. And Africa Games has given chances to very many of our elite athletes. The athletes like Maria Mutola, they have been at Africa Games. We have many in our country. They have been at Africa Games. And from there, they have reached the top of the world through the Africa Games. So it's an opportunity for us to make sure we have more of the athletes at Africa Games. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Beatrice, for those insights. So opportunity, motivation, and timing. These 3 things are crucial to getting our biggest athletes competing at the African Games. You look at the number of records that Africa has in athletics all around the world. We have national, world record, 400 meters belongs to an African, 800 meters. You go to 1,500 meters, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 meters, and yet not a single one of those records was set at an African Games. That is the biggest challenge. Then you ask yourself if they are putting out the best performances at the African Games, or we're getting our best athletes at the African Games. But you summarize it quite nicely. A lot of factors need to come into play to begin to see athletics playing the biggest role that it should be playing at the African Games, star attraction. Let me go to Jan now, because last year you hosted a very, very special games in Cape Verde, the beach games for the very first time, inaugural edition. So I can imagine everything that you were doing at the time was the first time you were doing that. I mean, just tell us about some of the unique challenges that you encountered organizing these games, and what opportunities you see for these games for Africa going forward.
Yeah, thank you. I think you made a very good point there. I mean, first of all, it was the first games, so there was no plan, or there was nothing to follow, so we had to start from zero. Start creating a concept. For what is the beach games. Obviously, beach games have taken place in Asia. Obviously, there's the first edition of the World Beach Games took place last year as well. But it's a very new concept for Africa. I mean, one of the big challenges that we had was obviously working with the different sports, the different confederations in Africa. Is the program, how would it work? For example, some sports, beach handball, for example, there hadn't been a previous sort of African sort of continental level of event for a long time. And so for us, it was really starting from scratch, not just from the sporting perspective. So understanding, I mean, one of the difficulties initially was understanding how many athletes would we have, how many teams, how many countries have existing, beach handball teams, or how many countries have participants in kite surfing, for example. So the sporting aspect was a very big challenge, to get the different sports to establish, first of all, to establish which sports wanted to take part, So we created a sport program as well, based on what our capabilities were in Cape Verde. So obviously Cape Verde, for those that don't know, I mean, is off the west coast of Africa, obviously, from very close to Senegal, but it's 10 islands. The island where we hosted the games, the island of Sal, is an island of 30,000 people. So obviously that was, it's very difficult in terms of the logistics to bring equipment, to organize the games, so whether it's everything that we needed, which you can imagine is a lot of things, had to come from abroad. I mean, we had, Mustafa obviously was my guy looking after the 3-on-3 basketball competition. I mean, and our court, which was very nice, which was donated by FIBA Africa, as well as the baskets. I mean, was lost in the Atlantic, on a boat for about 3 or 4 months, and it was literally the night before the competition started that court actually arrived in Sal, and Mustafa, his team, the FIBA Africa guys, and most of the organizing committee were there at starting at around about 11 o'clock at night, putting together the world's biggest jigsaw puzzle, which is a 3-on-3 basketball court. And luckily, but we had that ready. Mustafa and his team had that ready, and the competition started when it was supposed to start. But yeah, a lot of things happened behind the scenes. Obviously, logistics was complicated, but we also had some things in Sal which were very, very beneficial to the organizing committee. So Sal is a tourist island, so it has very large resorts. So we had, in terms of our athletes village, which obviously for many, and obviously Penalvo will know, and in terms of hosting those athletes, is a very complicated affair. But luckily, we had a large, 3,000, 4,000 bed, 5-star all-inclusive resort that we were able to use for the games. And so I think for the athletes that participated there, we had an amazing experience for them. And obviously that was, one of the things that made life easier, having some of those things. And the other thing is, obviously, when you look at beach sports, it's unlike the infrastructure required for whether it be the youth Africa Games, or obviously the All Africa Games. A lot of the infrastructure is temporary. So what we did was, to create, first of all, a very simple plan, which was to have everything in the same location. So we had one big area of beach. Oh, there we have a photo of the jigsaw puzzle being put together by Mustafa.
Mustafa has pulled that out.
Yeah, so as you can see, that was the whole team getting involved to put together the court. But yeah, so I think we have many challenges, in terms of the logistics. Obviously, Cape Verde doesn't have many flight connections into from Africa, because it's mainly European tourists that come. So you can fly from 10 different locations in Europe, but to fly from Africa was very difficult. So I mean, I think it's like every city, every host of any games will find that there are challenges in terms of the organization, and each country will be different. So Ghana will have different challenges to what we had. I think one of the if I was to give advice to whether it's Madam President, from to Ben, or to any future host, is when you sign on the dotted line the contract for the games, or you bid for the games, or you've accepted to host, because it can look very simple, and so, okay, I need to build X number of venues, but there's so much more that goes into that. In terms of an organization that maybe you only realize once you start looking into your obligations that you have to deliver. So I think that what we need to do is, you need to start down on a big long piece of paper. And you need to start working out, first of all, what are you actually capable of delivering? What is necessary to deliver an elite event? And I think if you put, first of all, the athletes at the center of these things. Okay, so what does an athlete need to compete? What are the conditions? So we first of all decided, right, well, we're not going to focus on what the VIPs need, or whether what type of drinks will be sold, or this and this. We focus, right, well, what we need is to give the athletes the best possible accommodation, the best possible food, the best training facilities, and put stadiums in place and put events in place where there's big crowds, to really help them to achieve the maximum that they can. I mean, we had in Sal, obviously with its proximity to Senegal, we had a massive local following of the Senegalese. And I mean, when we had the final of the football, I mean, it's as if every Senegalese within the Cape Verde Islands came and we had a fantastic event, and so yeah, it's a really complicated project to deliver whatever it is that the event the event is, and I obviously wish Ben and obviously all the best in terms of looking to deliver that event, because it's not easy. And obviously Penalva is I think already obviously experienced that as well, which and I think one thing for the Africa Games, I mean, obviously the last two editions have not been easy, obviously, or the last few editions, when you look at Morocco and how they were able to deliver that event in such a short period of time, I think was exceptional. And I think in the case of Ghana, I think what you have is you have time, it's not a lot of time. And I think that's the other thing is that these things, time flies by very quickly. And there's a lot of things to do. But I think Ghana has a lot more time than, let's say, Morocco did. So yeah, I think there were many positives, and yeah, I'm glad that we created this new concept and this new opportunity for African athletes to compete. And I hope that the next edition of the games will take that to the next level.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jan. Very well delivered. Let me just ask a very quick follow-up question. All of the facilities you put in place by the beach, they look like temporary structures. Were they removed, or you've left a lot of them there? What's the plan for that?
Well, yeah, I mean, so yes, obviously the majority of the infrastructure obviously was temporary. However, what we wanted to do as part of the legacy, and I think this is another area where organizers need to work with the continental federations, the international federations, because we received a lot of support from the international and international federations and the continental federations. Like I said, in the case of basketball, so we had we were given basically the whole 3-on-3 basketball court, the nets, and so whilst the temporary structure obviously was the seating and the different facilities, what we left behind in Cape Verde in terms of basketball was the equipment necessary to run these 3-on-3 events. And so, this equipment can move around the islands to host various different events. So And yeah, and I think equipment, we received a lot of equipment from the Handball Federation, the rowing, the International Rowing Federation, with a view to Dakar rowing. They donated a lot of equipment to us, which then led to the creation of the Cape Verdean without equipment. The rowing federation isn't a federation without the equipment to obviously to row. So I think that that, as you can see here, we have the tatamis for karate and for judo, which again, so the legacy rule really for Cape Verde, which was more based on around equipment that then could be used by future athletes to develop these sports.
Right. Thank you very much, Jan, for that wonderful delivery. Let's conclude this session with Benunu Mensah, President for the Ghana Olympic Committee, organizers of the next African Games in 2023. 1 year is already gone, 3 more left. You think you have time before you know the time is gone. Mr. Benunu Mensah, let's talk about Ghana. Currently, I'm not sure if the country has an Olympic stadium in place in Accra, for example, the capital. What is Ghana's plan to host these games? Is it to move it around cities? And what kind of facilities are currently in place? And what more is left to be done before the games come around in 2023?
Yes, Tahiru, thank you very much. I think that when I touch on that, when I finish, I will touch on a few things that Penaba and Beatrice have raised. I think that, yes, Corona or COVID might have given us a lot of setback in terms of what we had planned to do with regards to preparation for the games. Obviously, I heard somewhere where you had said, the minister had said that we were on schedule with our timelines. Obviously, he goes to cabinet, so, and I don't know which context he may be making his point from, but he has more information than I probably do. Maybe in terms of infrastructure, maybe in terms of us getting ready to host the games, yes, we are on timelines. But from where I sit, in terms of getting our athletes to prepare and then maybe putting together a roadmap or a blueprint as to what we'll do with regards to winning medals at the games, I think that we're a bit behind, and it's reasonable because COVID hadn't allowed us to do the things that we want to do. Currently, by way of infrastructure, I would say that we're just about 37% of what we need for the games, and even then, that 37%, these are existing structures that we need to do a bit of refurbishing on. We haven't started a project in Olympic Stadium yet. I was with the minister last week, and I think that what initially we're going to do a complete new stadium somewhere in Botswana, which is about an hour drive from Accra. But I think now the plans are that we would uplift the current stadium at the University of Ghana premises into an Olympic stadium, and then put up the other facilities around them. What we intend to do is not to just limit the game to Accra. We're looking at hosting part of the games in Cape Coast as well, and then Kumasi World Track and Field. It's very common in Ghana, So it's going to be a multi-venue arrangement. We would probably do most of the Accra events at the University of Ghana, and then of course the Bukom Sports Arena, which is located along the coast in Accra. And like I said, we haven't been able to start the stadium because there are a few things that needs approval from cabinets. I hear people say that we, like Jan just said, we are not late, or we still have some time. From where I sit, I think we don't have a lot of time. I know that the minister is scheduling a meeting for sometime next week, where some of these issues or some of these concerns that I have, hopefully can be addressed. But I think that all things being equal, once we get that commitment from cabinet, and then the go ahead are given on the construction of infrastructure, I think we should just be about make it for the games. What we may not be able to do is to maybe host a few test events where we can test our readiness or the readiness of the facilities. But I'm just hoping that once we get these things or we get approval from cabinet, this can be done. We just got a draft copy of the host agreement just about a week ago. I know currently it's with the Attorney General Department, where the government lawyers will have to look at it and then see all the legal implications or the legal obligations on the state. Once that is done, I'm sure we will then sign the host agreement. And that, I believe, should be the beginning of things to happen. Once the host agreement is signed, I'm believing that we'll see an acceleration in preparing for the games. But as we speak now, we have just about, I would say, 2 years, because 2020 is already ending and we're just about entering 2021. And for some of these games, especially putting in place a good games management system, you need not less than a year to make sure that all these things are working and working well. So I'm just hoping that we could be at West. If we're not able to meet the July deadline for the start of the games, I think that may be a 2-3 months push forward a bit. Maybe we'll be able to just make, but we're hoping that at least we'll be able to deliver games that were much or be much better than what we had in Rabat. I cannot hear you, Fentiu.
Okay, sorry about that. So I have a very quick follow-up question for you with regard to your readiness. As we know, and as Penalva said earlier, the African Games, usually a decision to host that is always most often a government decision. Exactly. In Ghana this year, there will be an election in December. Are you genuinely concerned that perhaps if there's a change of government, that could further hinder your preparations? As you indicated, it looks like you're already running behind time. Do you fear that the elections could further complicate things?
Well, naturally, that's what anybody sitting on the outside would think. But I think that on the project team that is working with the ministry, there are quite a few people, or there are quite a number of people who are not too deeply involved or who are not involved in politics, and whoever takes over the ministry after the election, I think that we should be able to follow through with the plans and program that has been put in place by the current minister. But what I'm seeing will be a challenge, that there will not be a lot of activity from now to December, because most of the government people, the decision makers, will really be involved, or their focus will be more on their elections than putting up a stadium and getting us ready. But that's expected. But I'm hoping that once we get the elections through, we can quickly accelerate things and make sure that we are ready to host the rest of Africa.
All right, thank you very much. What I'll just do is take quick comments. I'm sure some of you have been listening very keenly to some of the presentations from your colleagues. I don't know if anyone has a question or a comment that they would like to make very quickly. But Ben, you said you had something to say about what Beatrice said?
Yes,
briefly.
Thank you. But if we're going to talk about marketing of the games, then I can hold on. And then once we get to the marketing of the games, then I can.
That was naturally
exactly.
next.
So that's okay. I will wait till we get there. Then we can touch on those points.
Okay, thank you. So that will be the first round. So now I just take you to the general questions and then we can wrap it up. And this is a key one because it's crucial. I watched the African Games in Morocco, and it was so sad to see the number of empty seats that were in the stadium every single day of competition. So that's one problem, getting audience or getting spectators into the stadium. Number two, media coverage. In Ghana, for example, there was no national media coverage for the African Games, which, which was a bit unfortunate. And so all of these challenges that you talked about, if we're going to make the African Games such a big movement on the African continent, marketing, media rights, coverage, all of those things need to be better. So I ask a very general question, and any of you can take it. How can we improve the marketing of the African Games to make it a hugely successful and mostly very well anticipated event, like all of the other events that we have on the African continent? For example, the Africa Cup of Nations. How can we make the African Games such a hugely anticipated competition from the marketing angle, media angle, and what have you?
Well, Quintil, maybe I probably want to start. Okay. Now,
yes, you can go ahead. You can start.
Okay. All right. I think we need to wake up from what our framers of the African Games initially had in mind. It was about unity and solidarity for the rest of Africa. Let's go meet there and have fun. But you see, sports has changed. Sports is now a multi-million-dollar industry. So until we come to their realization, then we'll still have a challenge. The other thing that we also need to realize that, look, a huge chunk of funding that IOC gets comes from marketing and broadcasting rights. So what it means that sports is a brand that is easily marketable, and it's a brand that can easily generate a lot of revenue. By origin, the other fact is also, by origin, Africa has the best athletes in the whole world. I said by origin. I mean, look at all the performers, the good performers in athletics, in football. They are originally from Africa, or they are from African descent. Okay, so these are the facts. Why we are not taking advantages of these three facts that I just mentioned, it's just unbelievable. Africa could turn the African Games into a huge financial benefit for not just the host country, but the rest of the continent. The question we need to ask ourselves is, how do we do it? How do we make sure that our games are attractive? One, we need to make sure, and that's why I come to what Beatrice has said, we need to make sure that the best of our athletes are there. Because you see, if you want brand association, if you want sponsors to come on board to help us, then you have to give them something that is worth the money that they are putting in. If you don't have your best of athletes there, trust me, no sponsor will want to come on board, no brand will want to be associated. How do we get our athletes to show up? How do we get the best of our athletes to show up? You see, what British spoke, he said for the African countries, you realize that most countries will probably take their second-grade athletes, like it happened in Rabat. I mean, the only top athletes, African athletes who showed up was Mary from Nigeria. But even then, she got injured. Okay? Where are all our top stars from South Africa, from Cote d'Ivoire, who should have showed up there? Okay? So until we start getting our top athletes to come to the games, we will never be able to create a brand which is worth any association. Okay? The other way that we can get these athletes to come in is probably to make it financially rewarding for them, like Beatrice had said, that if it's competing. And then she also said the timing for the games, maybe it's not the best for most of our athletes. Okay, if we can shift or adjust the time such that it makes it good for all the athletes to participate in a world championship, and then they can still participate in the African championship, that is fine. Now, if we leave it open for athletes to decide which competition they go to, especially for Africa that was struggling to build that brand, we need to somehow find a way of, finding, or I won't say that force our athletes to come, but we need to get the African confederations to insist that at least for an NOC to enter you for the Olympics, you should have participated in at least one African Games in the last 8 years. I mean, we need to come up with strategies that would obviously force, in inverted commas, some of our top athletes, or force our top athletes to show up. Otherwise, nobody will be interested in the games. We haven't done much in terms of maybe positioning the African Games. And that is something that we need to work on, okay? And for me, I think that once some of these things are done, we should be able to position the game that it becomes worthy of any brand association, that way worthy of sponsoring, putting in their money. And these are a few things that I want to put in terms of marketing the games to make it attractive.
All right, so repositioning the games, making sure that Africa's top athletes are there, and then timing of the games. These three things need to be looked at. Jan
the other
has
point
a
I want to
contribution
add
as well.
is probably.
I think lastly,
Okay.
if
I'll
you
come to you, Matlo,
okay.
just briefly, but let me go to Jan first. He said the other a comment on how we can make the African Games very attractive. Jan, in less than 3 minutes.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with obviously with what Ben said. I think obviously you know one of the things you've really got to do is you've got to get the best athletes there. So I think that's one aspect of it. I think the other thing now is also you've got to you mentioned obviously the stadiums are empty in Morocco. I mean, the other thing is that marketing of the games doesn't start a week before, 2 weeks before the event. Marketing the game starts now. You know, you've got to create the excitement, and excitement is created over a long period of time. You know, and I think that what we have nowadays, maybe compared, you know, which I don't think even was the case, you know, available back in 2011. We have so many new platforms, whether it be Facebook, whether it be Instagram, whether it be YouTube. You know, these are free platforms, you know, that can reach an incredible amount of people, you know, and a free, you know, one of the strategies that we had for the beach games, which again, I think tied into the national strategy, because what is it? The Sahel, the island, was a tourist destination. So what we wanted to do was to highlight this. And so it's about, you know, we had over, you know, at the end we had over 70,000 followers on our Facebook page, you know, Instagram, you know, working with the government to you know, create content, whether it be beautiful videos or, you know, interviews with athletes or you know, and it's a difficult proposition because creating content for social media, as I'm sure you're aware, is time consuming, but it's, you know, you have to create, like Ben said, you have to create a product. You know, the part of that product is obviously the athletes and the athletic performance, but it's also, you know, creating a vision, you know, as well. What is it that you know, for example, take the case of Ghana. What does the government want? And then I think this is also a part of, you know, when you talk about elections and changing ministers, and I know this obviously probably Madame Matlahang is obviously, you know, very cognizant of this at the moment, and I'm sure she'll probably speak about that. You know, this when you go forward to organize events of this size, you know, it has to be based on a long-term vision. You know, because you can look at many positive examples, or maybe you know, just look at the Olympic Games, for example. Look at Athens, you know, in 2004. What happened? You know, they created all of these amazing venues, but then afterwards they're all in disrepair. You know, you've got to look at that legacy. But I think that, you know, and I'll let everybody else speak on this, but if I was to, you know, to really give one recommendation based on my experiences in Salem, what I think that we did very well was really to focus on social media, you know, and start getting people interested, getting excited about the games. And I know this is something that Lesotho is doing very well as well, you know. And I remember, I mean, if there was one National Olympic Committee during the Sal Beach Games, which was doing a lot of promotion on social media, it was Ghana, and it was, you know, it was good to see. I think this is something that Africa in general needs to take advantage of right now.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. Social media, we seem to be playing catch up. We really need to take the lead on social media. It's a massive platform. Matlo, I come to you. 3 minutes.
Thank you again. I think, yeah, just as a follow-up with the issue of change of government, and that is one of the things that has created a bit of slowdown for us in making progress, because We've had a change. We are a coalition government, and we have experienced a bit of turmoil in terms of changing of governance from one hand to the other in a very short space of time, and that honestly is a huge challenge. And I want to agree with Ben as well as Jan on the long-term vision and engaging people who are in the ministry to take through or see through the vision, as opposed to maybe relying much on the politicians. So yeah, I want to agree. Another thing that coming to how maybe we can promote our product. One of the things is to use. It's a pity that we are faced with the corona crisis, and we can't leverage much on tourism. But one of the things is to create that vibe, hosting of conferences, hosting of festivals, to make sure that we have a full program to the lead up to the games, to make sure that we have events running until the games. Yeah, just those.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. And that is really good indeed. We have a couple of comments from some of our viewers on Facebook. I'll let Mustafa.
Can I say something first? Can I just add something
Beatrice?
to?
Okay,
Yes.
Beatrice, yes. Beatrice,
Yes,
before we take some messages from Facebook.
Yeah, thank you very much. I can't really agree more than with my colleagues. I think the marketing of the games has to be thought through from the time when you are designing the games. For example, Ghana has one. What do we have? Do they have a strategy for marketing the games? I think we need to look at this, how to do this and what it takes to market the games. Way back the time of designing or planning for the games. I think at times we do this kind of like the last minute things. We end up bundling things together, and we don't get the right results that we need. So it's very important for us to be able to look at what are the tools that we want to use to market the games. What does it mean? What does it take? How much does it cost? If you don't have resources to market the games, for sure you're going to fail. So I think we need to look at this, and also the level of organization of our event and how prepared are we can determine how we are going to, whether we have the capacity to market or not. Because if you organize the event poorly, no one is going to be interested in it. So I think we also need to look at what is it that identifies the games. What does it, if I'm a common African, what do I attach? What value do I attach to the games? And I think that is what we should be able to market. If you look at Olympic Games, they have the torch. How the torch is lit at in Athens, I mean in Greece, is one aspect. It draws people to it. We have the Commonwealth Games for countries that are Commonwealth. They have the really is kind of a tool that they use for this. So I think we need to look at some of these things that we can use to market the games and what it takes to actually market the games. Thank you.
Tayo, can I quickly add to just what
Beatrice
had said? It's a very good point, okay? And that's a good marketing thing. You see, as we speak now, there's no clearly defined relationship between ANOCA and the AU in terms of ownership of the games and organization of the game. So these are some of the issues, or these are some of the challenges we bring onto ourselves, So we also need to, like I said, from our forefathers, it was supposed to be unity and solidarity. So we now need to sit back and really clearly define what we want as a nation or what we want from the games. One other thing I wanted to add was that, you see, as we speak now, most of the international federations don't have the African Games as an Olympic qualifier. And that is something that Africa needs to work on. Our confederations need to lobby these international federations so that the African Games becomes an automatic Olympic qualifier. And I think that's one way that we can get some of our athletes to come and take part in the games.
Wow. Yes, I agree. Very. And listen, we have just about 10 minutes left. So I'll just take some very brief comments from some of you. Penalva, let me ask you this particular question. Do you think, and Matlow talked about it, the African Youth Games being created as a way of giving smaller economies the opportunity to also host the games. When you look at the magnitude of logistics involved in hosting the African Games, and now in the case of Ghana in 2023, they are considering hosting the games in multi-cities instead of just at one city. Do you think that is a good premise for African countries to begin to consider co-hosting. Maybe 2 African countries, Ghana and Nigeria, can host the games. So that way one country doesn't have to do everything. And then maybe, just maybe, that could give the games a much larger audience or reach, or much more comfortable way of organizing. Is that something feasible, co-hosting? Your microphone is muted, Another.
But you are the one who is muting my microphone, so I don't remember.
Oh, go ahead. I can hear you.
Co-hosting is very tricky. I've spoken to my friend Ben. I've spoken to Rex from Ghana because of the intention of Ghana to co-host. But I also understand why Ghanaians feel. If you organize an event in the certain part of your country, the other side of the country will say, this is for Accra. So it's very difficult for one to handle this. As long as you very seriously organize your event, a co-hosting can be successful. It takes us to be very serious in what we do, even when we host our game in a single city. If we are not very serious in terms of how we organize accommodation, how we organize transport, accreditation, security, if the games, the matches themselves, the events themselves, I mean, everything which is related with the games in a very serious manner. Let me tell you one small story. In Brazzaville, in I think it was powerlifting competition, there was a world record. All of a sudden, the person who broke the world record had to be tested. The people who should test were not around because they were on strike, they were not paid, they didn't get allowance. I mean, we cannot allow these kind of things to happen. So first of all, if our event is managed in a very serious manner, then I will agree with what Ben says, and he says it very correctly. And Michael and Beatrice are also saying that that top athletes is the key point. But top athletes will never come to your country if you are disorganized. Top athletes will not come to sleep on the road, on the street, or on the coach. Top athletes will come if everything is well organized. And we need, so that's why I say we have to organize our event very seriously. And we have to sit down first with our national federations, with the confederations, but this, this needs time. For Ghana, probably we won't be able to and as somebody mentioned, COVID came and took us away lots of things. Because at this moment, Ghana would be like talking with confederations in order to, after 2020 Tokyo Games, the International Federation could set qualifiers in Ghana. But I don't know if we have time to do this, if COVID will run away from us very quickly or not, how long it takes. So it really takes approaches to convert because broadcasters will only buy quality product. Quality product will come along with quality athletes. And for instance, Ben mentioned, if for instance, there is in the criteria saying, if you do not participate in the African Games, you are not allowed to go to the Olympic Games. But this takes conversation with the AFs. It takes conversation with the Confederation, because somehow we have to, Europe, America, you name it, all the continents organize huge events, all the athletes, the top athletes participate. Yeah. Our athletes do not participate because we are not organized.
Okay. All right, Panava, and I agree. There has to be some degree of, I don't know, force or mandatory. Make it mandatory. I don't know, but we have to find a way of getting them there. Jan, you get the last take on this whole thing, co-hosting.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that you know, I mean, just on that point about the athletes, I mean, obviously, as the national Olympic committees of the countries, I mean, at the end of the day, you are the people who decide which of your athletes will go to the Olympic Games. You know, and maybe it's the national Olympic committees that need to say games, irrespective of whether you qualified. This is part of our qualification process. You need to participate at the All African Games. That is the rule. And I think on co-participation, I mean, I think that, you know, there's many points being said already. It's difficult. Obviously, there's the political side of it. You know, if you co-host with another country, Ghana, Nigeria, you know, then there'll be questions: who's going to do the opening ceremony, who's going to do the closing ceremony? You know, it becomes very complicated. I think one of the things that I think so co-hosting, I think, can have advantages, but I think it can also be very complicated as well. You know, I think that the other thing that needs to be looked at as well, and I think there is a history of the African Games in terms of some events. You know, obviously, you know, some events. I'll take, you know, a good example is equestrian, for example. I think in Morocco this was done, but in Brazzaville it wasn't done. I think the organisers with ANOCA, you know, and the African Union need to look. Okay, so Ghana going to host this games. I mean, you know, is Ghana going to invest in equestrian? Is it realistic for a country to deliver all of the sports and events that maybe are requested? You know. And I think that, you know, that's another way of looking at it in terms of you look at co-hosting to share the burden, but I think you also need to look and say, okay, what events are we going to do that are relevant, you know, to the long-term development of the sports in the country. I mean, there's many sports which, you know, let's take another one is shooting. Shooting is a popular sport. However, the movement of weaponry and guns are you know, across the continent internationally is very difficult. And sometimes you can say, instead of necessarily saying co-hosting, you can maybe, you know, the conversation can be with, you know, with the African Union, with ANOCA, say, look, this country, let's say, is specialized in they know how to organize these shooting events. This is very, very complicated. Let's just say that the African qualifier for shooting will be here. You know, and you know, and I think equestrian, sailing, for example, again is, you know, there's another example where boats, things where big equipment has to come, athletes need to bring big equipment. I think the initial question is, right, should we host that event, you know, or should we put our focus in those events where there will be a legacy, you know, and I think, yeah, so it's a very complex decision. I think it's necessary to look at all of those. Look at all of the pros and cons, but I think also the real factor is the host nation. There has to be a legacy for this, because what is the point? You know, I'll take, for example, Rio de Janeiro. You know, massive amounts of money was spent on this canoe slalom venue, tens and tens of millions, and has never been used since. You know, there's limited amounts of money available. It has to go towards something which is a longer term vision than just that period of, you know, 2 weeks or whatever it is for the game. So I think that's the critical thing with the ANOCA, the African Union, and the hosts, potential hosts, needs to do is sit down and say, okay, so what are we capable of? What are we going to deliver? What's the legacy? Because that's the thing.
Priorities.
Yeah. Priorities, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much, Ian. Brilliant point. So we need to prioritize and play to our strengths. It's very important. You know, what do we need? What is necessary? All right. Thank you very much, everyone. This has been a very lively interaction. Brilliant ideas that we could all take home and put into use towards the improvement of the African Games, the African Beach Games, the African Youth Games. Before we go, though, I just take closing remarks from Mustafa before we wrap it up. Mustafa?
Yes, Tahiru. So we had some comments, but it's just a comment. It's from Anna from Zimbabwe NOC. She's saying like we hope the African game will be qualified for more Olympic sports courts, as this will elevate the level of the performance on the continent. Going offshore for qualification even continue to be disadvantageous for the continent. So that's a comment from Anna. And Leo Deng from foundations say also, I also think this is another aspect, is identifying and including foreign born African athletes. West countries do a great job finding athletes with parents and grandparents from their country. Yeah, great debate. Yeah, so that's
Okay.
so far what we have on the chat box. And now we already stepping in the time of the French session. So I think it will be a good idea to just to let the speakers to say their final words, so we can start now the French
Yeah,
session. And
absolutely. Thank you very much, Mustafa,
we have
for
to
the
do
wonderful
it again.
comments.
Yeah.
Let me just, and let's make this as brief as possible. I have learned a lot, taking a lot of notes and I'm going to use some of them during my sports shows and tell the whole world how we can improve the African Games. Just 30 seconds. Let's just wrap it up briefly. I'll start with you, Jan. Your closing remarks.
Yeah, I mean, very quickly, I think that if there's one closing remark, I think is that in order to be as effective and as possible in organizing these events, I think the people that have gone before, people like Alba, who have organized these events, it's important that that these people are included in the conversation, because they're able to give experience of their own experiences, what worked, what didn't work, and it's important that this transfer of knowledge, which happens, is a very critical part of the Olympic Games, is very active here. So let's look at those previous hosts. Let's get their opinions and their advice and their recommendations, so that each edition of the Games is not starting from zero, right? It's starting from a point of previous experience and building on that experience. So I think that would be my key point from this.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'll go to Mathlohan for your closing remarks.
Thank you, Tahiru. I think I will go with the line of involving athletes, because these are their games. And I want to believe that the top athletes of Africa have an obligation to the youth of Africa to say, we can, if we engage them also in a discussion, to say they must come to the fore to say, how can we improve our own games? What is it that can be done, so that at least they don't just leave a legacy of being top athletes, but they leave a legacy of elevating the profile of the African Games for the youth of Africa. So I think involving the top athletes of Africa is very key in making sure that we can improve our games. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Beatrice?
Yeah, thank you. And I think Africa Game has really played a lot of role in the sports movement in Africa. And I think what we need to do as Africa is to organize the event better. I think we need to look at sponsors, how we support the National Olympic Committees, how they can ensure that we have the athletes participating. Also, we need to look at some kind of events like the zonal level, because we only have Africa Games, which happens after 4 years. Do we have the zones? Yes. So if we can have some zonal events, we move into the Africa Games, and I think also there's need for us to have a better cooperation between the AU, the ANOCA, and on one side, and also between the government and National Olympic Committees at the local level, because at times some of these things don't play very well in the development of sport in Africa. So I think, yes, we as Africa were on the right track, and I think the next games we're going to have are really going to be much, much better than the ones we had before. So thank you very, very much once again for having invited me to be part of this discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for your time as well. let me take the thoughts of Penalva. Your closing remarks.
Well, my closing remarks go to Mohamedou. Let me thank him by the fact that he invited all of us for this conversation. Let me also congratulate you, Fedul, because you did a great job on moderating and meeting this great panel, Michael Hang, Beatrice, Jan, Ben Nunu Mensah, my friend. It was a great moment. I think this was very successful. I thank you very much. I wish everyone to stay safe and let us build our African sport and get it better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Penalva, for your time as well. Brilliant ideas. Mr. Ben Mensah, your closing remarks.
Yes, Tahiru, let me first of all congratulate yourself, Mustafa, and of course, I know Francis is also listening in there. That look, young guys in Africa, and you're learning so much, and you're giving us so much. I hope that you guys will be able to take over once some of us move on. From what has been discussed, if anybody tells you that Africa doesn't have what it takes to organize and deliver games, Tahiru, I'm sure now you say it's not true. I mean, look at the suggestions and all the things, apart from Jan, who probably is not from our continent. There's so much capacity in Africa in terms of ideas to organize these games well. But what happens most of the time is that we put round pegs in square holes or square pegs in round holes. Let the people who have the ability, the people who have the capacity, let them run these games. And I'm sure that we'll be able to organize these games and organize them very, very well, just like it's done all over the country. But thank you very much for having us here. And I hope that this is something that we can continue to do, so we can constantly be sharing ideas across board, and then we'll be able to have our games get better. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Benini Mensah. So this has been another edition of the Africa Talk Sports on the topic, the impact of the African Games on the development of Africa's sports movement. This conversation has circled around how we can move the African Games forward in terms of participation, marketing, and how we can improve it all around. We talked about the inaugural edition of the African Beach Games as well, and what lessons we learned from Seoul 2019 going forward. We talked about how to get African athletes, the top African athletes performing and participating at the African Games. We talked about the 2023 African Games and Ghana's preparations for the Games. We talked about legacy from Mozambique 2011. And then we also talked about 2022 African Youth Games that Lesotho will be organizing. My guests today have been a wonderful panel. Jan Craving, former CEO of the African Beach Games from 2019, Seoul. I've also had Benini Mensah, President, I must say, of the Ghana Olympic Committee. I've had Beatrice as well, Beatrice, Executive Board Member of World Athletics, Vice President, National Olympic Committee of Uganda. I've had Penalva Cesar, Secretary General, Mozambique National Olympic Committee. They organized the Games in 2011. Matt Lohan is also the host president, I guess, for 2022 African Youth Games. Thank you very much, all of you. It's been a wonderful discussion. Mustafa, thank you for putting this together as well. And for all of you, I'd like to say that congratulations on wonderful delivery. I have learned a lot personally. And as a sports reporter, my eyes have been opened to so many more angles, so many more opportunities, so many more perspectives that I did not have, thanks to all of your wonderful and deep knowledge of African sports. Thank you. God bless you. And do stay safe during this COVID period. Until next time, I want to say that may the Almighty God bless all of you and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and everybody be safe.
All right.
A nice weekend too.
Guys,
Yes, Matty and everybody.
Before you guys
Very
go,
much. Beatrice, that was an
Bye,
excellent
Beatrice.
presentation.
Bye,
Yeah.
All the
Now you
best.
can
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
Canalba.
Mati.
You guys hear me? Can you
Bye
guys
for
hear me?
Penala,
now.
okay.
Before you
So
go,
we'll
Bye,
catch up
Jan.
sometime very soon, Mati.
Okay.
before you go,
Yes, yes.
I would be in Macero once the borders are open, trust me.
Oh, because you're on the marketing commission, definitely. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes.
hey guys, before you
All
go,
right.
before you
Okay.
go, I want to say a last word just to thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to listen to you and to learn. Because as Fantiro say, today we learn, and we have a certification that we Africans we have an idea, we have great idea, and we know what we're doing. Like you said, we may be in the youngest generation, but we have learned a lot from you and what we have from Africa. And a special thanks to Jan Craven, who gave me the opportunity last year, like to know about what's the meaning of games. Because yes, I was getting involved in games in 2012, but what I've learned in Sal Beach game is kind of like reboost me, like it's like a bait. And if these guys wasn't sharing what they have been learned through years, from the Olympic Games, from the Commonwealth Games, to us, like me and Francis, we won't, like, this won't be happen. This happened because of Sal Beach game, and that's what we need. And this is the powerful message that you guys deliver today. And thank you once again. And for sure we have to meet again and talk about games. And thank you, and see you next time then. Thank you very much.
Jan, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Jan, for
Bye.
creating
Thank
these
you.
young guys for
Cheers.
us. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Cheers. Bye.